I've raised close to $40 million in equity and over $120 million in debt. When I was actually starting out, I knew nothing about fundraising. I thought you needed a lot of traction, a lot of revenue, a lot of proof points to even raise a single dollar. I'm gonna tell you guys everything I've learned about fundraising at the earlier stages. Here are the things I wish I knew very early on. Number one thing you need to understand is that there are people out there that are actually looking to back great high quality founders that have a lot of determination and want to see an idea through. These people do exist. You might not even believe it's possible, or your confidence might be so low. There are people who are actively looking to make those investments, and those people are angel investors. So how do you go about finding people to back you? Is you first need to be working on something that is valuable to investors, a unique idea that is solving a problem in a way that no big company has solved yet, and that product or basically idea can turn into something really big one day. For example, in the 90s, it wasn't yet obvious that Google could become this big thing. Larry Page and Sergey Brin realized that, hey, the internet was going to become this huge thing. There needed to be a portal to the internet so you can actually discover things that you need help with. There needed to be a search engine. First, you actually need an idea. And once you have that idea, for getting investors, you want to actually prove to yourself that people other than you want to use the product that you're building. So in most cases, the first step is to actually build some kind of MVP. You want to build something that people want to use, and you don't want to spend 6 months doing it. Try to think very, very creatively on how you can test whether that idea works. Website you can put up in a week, or just building an app very quickly. Put that product out there, start getting customers. Once you have that traction, once you have that idea, you're getting some confidence that something could work. Getting funding to build your business just makes it exponentially easier, because now you have money that you can use to better your product, spend money to acquire customers, hire some people. It is quite challenging to build a product-based company without any outside funding. Of course, some people have done it, but that's usually an anomaly. If you want to really scale it to big heights, it makes it a lot easier to fundraise. If I were starting today, I would actually just apply for something like Y Combinator or Techstars and go through an incubator. When you're just starting out, you want to do as many things as possible to optimize your odds of succeeding. And if you do something like Y Combinator, like I did very early on, it just makes the fundraising process easier. And the most crucial thing when you're writing out your application is that you are crystal clear on what you're working on, that every single thing that you write brings more and more clarity to the person reading it. Don't use any buzzwords. For Parker, when we were starting out, we said, we're building a better banking product for e-commerce companies. I didn't say, hey, we're revolutionizing the financial fintech industry. We just kept it very simple. And then we wrote a description on what the existing problems were, how we were going to solve it, how many merchants there were, how we were going to get them, what the business model was. We kept it very simple. The other thing too is that we actually had the skills to build it. We were engineers. We had an MVP. Do you have the skills today to even go after idea or concept that you have? Maybe you don't. And if that's the case, maybe you should go build out the skills. Let's say you got into YC or you didn't, and you still think it's time to fundraise and you're pitching investors. There's really two essential things. One is a blurb and two is a deck. The blurb is when you're going to be asking for introductions, or when you want to meet an investor, whether it's via cold email or whether you're asking for an introduction, you want to have a simple description of what you're building that actually explains what the opportunity is. Maybe 3 to 5 sentences that explain what you're doing and why it's exciting. One sentence describing what you're building, one sentence around the traction, and one sentence around the opportunity at large, or maybe one sentence that gives you some social proof around some major customers you have or some angel investors that are already in. You want to have a longer format deck, outline the problem, explain your solution, tell people how much traction you have, explain the business model, the market, and then the team. Just keep it very, very simple. The best decks are just extremely simple and clear on actually explaining what it is you do. Once you have those two things, if you are out of an accelerator, like I was, out of YC, you just want to start tapping in and talking to as many investors as possible. It's kind of like a marathon where you just need to get through so many no's to get to your yeses. It's a volume game. Most of them will say no, some of them will say yes, and that's all you really need. You're going to start learning what it is that's working in your pitch, what it is people like, what it is people don't like. Sometimes people will be quite opaque on their feedback. Sometimes they'll be more transparent. If you take more of a relationship building like approach where you say, hey, like, find that you're saying no, I really liked you. If you actually vibe with them and they just said no because it's too early, just ask them like, hey, why are you saying no? That feedback is helpful. And as you understand that, you'll iterate your pitch over and over again, and eventually you'll end up with something that's pretty stellar. Those are basically the basics of what you need to know. So if you like my content, hit the subscribe button. I'll just be teaching you guys everything I know about what it's like to build a technology company and what it's like to build an e-commerce business.